All right, so we are live for the Future of Contracting warm-up webinar. Here's to Carol and Oud to welcome you all.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, who's ever joining from Europe, and please, good evening if you're joining from Asia and Pacific. This is the second warm-up leading to the Future of Contracting. We are very, very happy and honored that you're joining now live with us. This is a very challenging moment worldwide. So we once again thank you and acknowledge you for seeing us live or watching the replay eventually. I'm Carol Hanoud. I'm Chief Business Development Officer at Legal Creatives. I'm also a mother, a wife, and a teacher here in Brazil, speaking from Brazil. And it's special and rewarding to have in the studio so many amazing people that are joining us today. So quoting a bit Bill Henderson, we do believe that the legal education and the legal profession are the turning point where traditional models of education and practice no longer fit the changing needs of the market. Once again, needless to say, to a certain extent, but for this moment, this is important. This quote was made in another situation where the world actually had social values and market reference different from potentially what we have today and what is coming next. I'm going to start and hand over to Pierre Dixon, founder and CEO of Sky Contracts, and subsequently Tessa Manuelo, my CEO at Legal Creatives. Pierre, please tell us a bit about yourself and what exactly Future of Contracting is.
Thank you, Carol. It's really good to be here, and thank you, Tessa, Charlotta, Jose, and not least my colleague Magnus. Well, Future of Contracting as such. I mean, one of the reasons for Future of Contracting is really my factual background myself. I've slipped into becoming a general counsel of various international IT consultancy businesses, but I'm a financial guy as well. But over the years, I realized that I wasn't making use too much of my legal skills nor my financial skills. Maybe the fusion of it. But at the end of the day, I really concluded that all those situations and places and people where I was brought was having something in common that actually made me rethink the model. And that was actually another part of my background, and that was my military background. Because in those 4 years, I was more into training, more into psychology than in any of the other, nearly 2 times 3 years in the various financial and legal faculties. And this has certainly not stopped. It's not that I'm saying stop educating and start training, but close to it. So that's why I'm particularly interested in this warm-up this day. When it comes to Future of Contracting as such, I think that one of the key driving factors that I stumbled over, that was IACCM, the trade organization, the non-profit trade organization that is about commercial contract management. Tim Cummins, he's been really good at putting together like images of situations, and those images they have turned into training sessions, and those kind of training sessions has proven to be really good in order to align people, to make people work together, because we all know it doesn't matter how many studies we do. If we make a study of our, for instance, legal people in a worldwide organization, they are working very much like one-man shows without playing a team play. One of my favorite stories is really about my so-called MD story. What does an MD, a managing director, actually do in many companies when they train their staff? My short version is that is a little bit abusive. That is that they go for a sleepover with the management team at the end of August. And if you're in Sweden, you always end up in a nice island in the archipelago. and you are being really, really aggressive and having all those sort of exponential ideas the first evening, and then back to square one day two. The CFO comes down to realities and it ends up with cost cuts. And when you get back to the troops, what is happening there? They all know that, okay, those guys, they've been away for a sleepover again, and it's time for more cost cuts. No exponential thinking, no training. If you compare that one with a football trainer who basically stands by the side of the football court and watching his 20 guys practicing, giving small advice, fine-tuning, that is about driving change. We all know that we buy gadgets like crazy, but changing behavior is extremely difficult. And that's why this future of education is in particular interesting. I'm so looking forward to hear what you guys have to say. And this is only a teaser, and this is leading us to the future of contracting at the end of the month. And by this, I would like to welcome Tessa, one of my favorite people in the world. Best part of the past 3 years since I met you in Munich. Tessa,
well, that's really nice of you, Pierre, to say that. What an intro. Thank you very much for sharing about your story. I don't want to take too much of your time because we have guest speakers, and I think it's really important to give the virtual mic to Jose and Charlotta. But I want to say one thing, though, one thing that I believe to be very important. And it is that the way we educate the workforce today, whether it's for law or for other topics, has gone completely outdated with the new world that is a digital world, interconnected globally, and that is even more so real now with the COVID-19 outbreak that brought the entire world at home. And the only way to connect, to work, and to interact is online. And everything that we have been learning at school, unfortunately, has not been adapted for this new reality. And for the legal industry, knowing that the law is the foundation of societies, it gets even more important to rethink the way we educate legal professionals. And I'm not going to say just lawyers, but legal professionals at large, because the future will not be about lawyers. There will be different kinds of professions. We will need to develop new skills, and we will need to learn to work in a different way. And I'm sure our speakers today are going to be sharing a lot about what they have to say for the future of education in the legal field, but also in a more general way. At Legal Creatives, we've been really happy and excited to be starting this educational revolution in law, because we've been training so many lawyers online from all around the world into learning the power of design thinking, which is this user-centric methodology that is made to do innovation, thinking of the end users first and not the law first. And so we've been really happy to see the results of our community members. And I am sure that with what's happening now, the kind of work we're doing is going to grow and is going to inspire others, institutions and organizations as well. So I've been really excited to also, work with you, Pierre and Magnus, when we used to work in the physical world, taking planes and going to other cities and, hiring venues for events. It was really fun to do that in person, but I have to tell you, it's also as much fun to do it online. So that's the good thing about being, having a capacity to adapt and to adjust to circumstances. So let me give the virtual microphone back to Carol.
Thank you for the virtual microphone. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Tessa. So I'm very proud to present you José Garcés Girardi. He was my teacher when training to become a teacher, and his lesson was just out of this world. So José is a law professor at Fundação Getúlio Vargas Law School, where he is responsible for the legal education program for graduate students. His current research focuses on the transformations of state and democracy vis-a-vis globalization and technological revolution. Please handing the virtual microphone to José Garcés Girardi. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Tessa. It's great to be here. Hello, everyone out there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to be here with Pierre, Charlotte, and Magnus. I'll try to make it short as an opening. My point is that educational institutions have as their key function the reproduction of material and symbolic life in every society. That's what they do. And my point here is that the shift from industrial capitalism to financial capitalism has taken the very roots of all our educational institutions. But that this is particularly true about law because of the reshaping of the modern state. The state today has a different function and different kind of power it had, say, 60 years ago. So that's pretty much my line, and I'll try to be brief so that we can dialogue about it. So the modern university was a product, a mirror, and a tool of modern society. It served modern society and industrial capitalism. It has at its core basic tenets, as I said already, industrial capitalism and free markets and free competition in the economy. It has a Cartesian reason and Kantian metaphysics in philosophical as its philosophical structure. It has the social democracy as the default regime in the West. It has a nation state as the basic unit, political unit. You thought the world from the state and based on the state. And it had self-control as the method of building up your subjectivity. To educate was to be able to control yourself, and Freud has a lot to say about that. All these elements are called into question. So we don't live in industrial capitalism anymore. We live in global financial capitalism led by corporations, not by states. The nation state is losing ground. It cannot tax financial capital globally. We see many efforts for the international community to do that, but states cannot finance themselves at the same time that people demand more from the state. The democracy is called into question, unfortunately, in many parts of the world, and I think this has to do with the incapacity of the state to respond to these things. The post-truth movements have said that metaphysics, the basic of our conceptual thinking, is flawed and maybe authoritarian and maybe exclusionary. So the very elements that shaped our university and our way of thinking and educating are under attack right now. And frankly, I don't think they can resist it. And this is particularly true in terms of law, because law and the state are intrinsically connected. So we have our legal system based on national legal systems interacting. Not any longer. Not any longer the state is the main player in regulation. As Francois Ost and Michel de Kerchove suggest, and I agree with them, we're moving from a world in which we had government from a world in which you have governance. So we are shifting from national government to global governance. And we are shifting from statutory law to regulatory law. And this is a major, major change. And this affects the way that lawyers act, even if they're going to act only within their domestic legal systems. It's inevitable that the global landscape plays a part there. So we have had for some time now this quest for global lawyers, contested expression, but it bespeaks the need to think of lawyers differently. And the skills that a lawyer needs to proficiently act in this scenario are radically different from what they have been taught at law school. Law schools are still, for the most part, deeply rooted in the 1950s, in the previous modern landscape. And nowadays, they cannot respond to the challenge that we are having. And part of the crisis we are having is because law schools cannot have people prepared to tackle the conceptual and practical problems that we are facing with this shift in capitalism paradigm. So to conclude, I think that we are in law schools, we are preparing people for a world that does not exist anymore, and preparing students for a labor market that is vanishing or being transformed in the way that we know. Technology is doing ever more and ever better work that previously scores of lawyers were involved into. And this is not a bad thing, but this is a fact that we have to tackle. And so I do believe that it is absolutely urgent that we rethink what it means to be lawyers and how we educate lawyers for this new scenario. Because if you fail to do so, we're stealing from society the opportunity of have the solid legal basis for democratic life that we all want. We need to think better. We think to be more creative conceptually, and we need to face the transformation that technology brings seriously. So I strongly believe that what this seminar is doing is crucially important. Law is a key element in democratic societies, and we cannot turn our backs on what's going on. And discussing this and trying to at least ask better questions and point to possible solutions, it's a task that we have to do. And I thank Tessa and Carol and this webinar for the opportunity of involving in dialogue, which is elemental to perhaps preparing answers to these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you. I'm going to hand over the virtual microphone now to Charlotta Kronblad. Charlotta practiced law for a decade before switching to an academic career at Chalmers University of Technology. Her research targets the intersections of business, law, and organizational change, with specific focus on the impact of digitalization. Charlotta, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for being on board as well. Please, handing over the microphone.
Thank you so much. I hope you all can hear me, and thank you for allowing me to speak at this event. It's really interesting to listen into you and to be a part of this. As you so friendly just said, I am a past lawyer. I also worked in the court system, and now I research what digitalization has meant for the legal industry, both for law firms, so the way they practice law, and also for the courts and the way that we in society view the law. And I think that the previous speaker, Jose, was very, very interesting, that this is really, the law has not been catching up to the transformations of society at large. We really live in a system where the law has been created, and we still teach lawyers for this kind of industrial needs and the industrial society. And I mean, where Jose introduced this financial transformation, I will take it the one step further and actually discuss the digital transformation that we are currently in. That's my focus of research, and that's so I will bring you to that and try to explain to you. So in this current transformation, what does that mean? How has that transformed the context, and what does that mean that we need to train our lawyers in? Because this new kind of context does demand for new skills, new competencies, new ways to practice law, and so on. So this is a very, very important conversation, I think. So I will try to wrap up. My conclusions of my research has really been that digitalization has impacted the legal landscape or the legal context, the legal world, in three different ways. And the first of those ways are the external context. So digitalization of the world surrounding the lawyer, so other industries, businesses, and so on. We see self-driving cars, we see robot-assisted surgeries, or global e-trading solutions in retail. So of course that demands for new lawyers or new legal areas. It's a complex world out there, and so we need lawyers that can actually deal with those kind of new legal issues that are out there. And of course, that's valid also for legal professionals working within companies or working within the courts and so on, because the world is changing. The lawyers need to catch up with that, this external change, and be ahead of the game there. So for that, we need kind of new classes, new skills to tackle these new legal areas. And then the second way that digitalization has impacted law firms and the legal world, that's actually the way of work. So now, for instance, you work more virtually, you work with certain tools. For instance, in M&A transactions, you would use virtual data rooms, you would use some software that would be intelligent to help you. We have this whole world of intelligent contracting and so on. So there's a huge new world of internal ways that the law firms and the courts need to change and adapt to a new way kind of thinking about how to work with the law and to practice law. So that's a whole new kind of mindset that you need. And of course, you need to be trained in how to use these new digital technologies and tools. So that's the second way. So then the final way that I see that digitalization has changed kind of the context of law firms and lawyers, that's actually through kind of completely transforming the landscape in terms of the business models and the organizations. So previously, lawyers would sell their hours. That's a very common business model for law. But in a system where, and Jose also pointed to this, that was, you sold the hours because the human capital was a capital at work that was creating the value in the company. But now we see increasing amount of technology being used in the legal production. We see that the structural capital, the technological capital is needed for value creation in law firms. And then we also need to find new business models to kind of take care of that and to ensure that the value created is also captured within the law firms in an amended business model. So that's another kind of skill set and competence that is needed. It's a lot broader. So we need now lawyers that can comprehend how to create valid business models in this kind of new context. So to wrap that up and to kind of conclude, we need kind of 3 new ways to tackle competencies within this new kind of world with these new changes from digitalization. So we need to have more complex education around the new kind of digital legal areas, legal issues with digital elements coming from the external world. Then we need kind of this kind of practical tools. We need to be able to dare to try new things within law firms and within the courts. We need to be innovative in how we work and work in new ways together. Virtual rooms, collaborations, we need to be able to use blockchain, smart contracts, all these kind of things. So that's a new kind of skills needed and also new mindset to dare to try these new things. And then the third thing that I see is we need lawyers that think in a broader sense and also include these kind of business elements and can actually create new business models and new organizational forms around how we practice law. And I think that also resonates to the changes in the nation states and democracy that we talked about. We need to kind of adapt to these kind of new contexts. So that's 3 different ways that I think that the industry has changed. And I think now with the corona, this kind of speed of transformation is only going to go faster. I mean, certain things that were unthinkable just a few months ago are now possible. For instance, then virtual courtrooms and so on. That's becoming very common now throughout the world, and that is now realistic and it's already there. So I think that's it. We are in for a very interesting time moving forward, and I'm really glad to be part of this discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlotta. Thank you very much. Everyone, please feel free to join us for the questions in the live comments. I'll be here facilitating a bit the discussion, and it would be really nice to have you on board as well to create new aspects of the questions and the problems. I don't know if there's some sort of interference here, but everyone can hear me. Very good. Yeah, a bit. Yeah. So basically, I'll try and be very sharp, short, and effective. I have a dream, quoting John Lennon as well, about strategic partnership amongst universities, law firms, legal techs, and law techs. So I really believe that there are wrong triggers in the profession as it is in the private sector, based a bit into what Charlotta tackled about the hourly rate and, you know, this resistance to actually take advantage, disclose the use of technology for certain tasks, and actually tackle the fact that we need to address some structural problems. So I would ask Charlotta and Jose, please, do you have already in the universities that you lecture and teach and work some sort of partnership amongst law firms and legal techs and law techs with the university to try and embrace this in a very, you know, honest and difficult, of course, manner, but needed, let's say, for change?
You want to go first, Charlotte, now? Okay, so we'll start. Yes, at FGV, we do have partnerships with law techs and new technologies because we see that this is irreversible. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? There's no escaping this. And this, of course, impacts the way that we allocate time within the law school, and that's a very, very important battle. You have just a certain amount of time. What do you teach students, right? And it is a tremendous battleground. But yes, we do have this because it's not only, as Charlotte pointed so exactly, it's not only that we're training them to do things differently. It's a different mindset. It's a different way of conceptualizing law. It's a different way of conceptualizing decisions, legal strategies, and everything. And so I needed time to educate students along these lines. But still, other readings of law are very much alive at university, and they are. So that's a little battle there for student time. And the second thing, which I think is interesting to notice and to point out, because it's part of the broader debate, is in a country like Brazil mainly, there's also an argument that we are creating, as in other parts of the world, a two-tier legal system. So just like globalization tends to create the upper floor and the lower floor, right? And with high quality products for the very top and low quality mass production stuff for the great majority of people. So there's also a debate whether how we can incorporate, which is inevitable, technology and the technological mindset into our law school without making Brazil's social gap even worse. Because I do believe that, on the contrary, technology can be a great tool for democratization and opening access, but it's not for granted. It's not given that it will be that way. It is a political decision on how to tackle technology, and I think this is also important. So yes, we do have the partnerships, and we have all the headaches that come with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for my part, it's quite interesting because I'm not teaching law to law students, but I'm teaching law to engineers, actually. So what I try to do, I try to bring in the legal side and break down the kind of silos that engineers are here and the lawyers are here and they are not speaking until it's absolutely necessary. I'm trying to bring in a common language so that our engineers will actually be able to talk to lawyers, talk about working proactively with law, instead of just viewing the lawyers as kind of the breaking point, or the one you go to at the absolute last stage, but to actually use law in a proactive sense to create value, and not be afraid of that. So and they are really good, actually. I am impressed with the speed that they are tackling on these kind of concepts of law, and the different the different way to talk about that, and it's quite interesting to be able to do that. So we have a lot of discussion on what is justice, what is law, and all these kind of big debates, but they are also very interested in actually how can we use technology to improve the legal side. So I'm actually having 6 of them writing a big paper about how to use artificial intelligence in the court systems. I mean, they do it from their point of view and their competencies, and mixing it up then with my supervision and my competencies, and we are bringing that back to the court system. So I think that's a good example of mixing it up somehow, and try to get collaborations going that are not just law students working with the courts, but actually here I have tech students working with the courts. I think that's quite a good example of new collaboration.
Thank you, Charlotta. We have a question from Pierre now, please, for both speakers.
Yeah, I think this is, under the surface, there's so many people in the world right now who's starting to engage in, this is a bad line, I guess. Yeah, this is a very bad line. Hello? Okay.
No?
Anyway, there's a massive number of people who have started to debate what the 6 of us are talking about here. At the same time, these people have seen the light. They have quite often, they are quite experienced people. So when I'm thinking about educating a larger group of people, the universities plays a very big role. And I think that Charlotte is like a role model for that. You are talking to people who will actually be built-in ambassadors in the organizations. Because quite obviously, we know that lawyers have never been really part of the business. And there is nothing that speaks in favor of that. That should happen by itself anyway. One recent evidence on the fact that some schools are testing this is IE University in Spain. I mean, even their byline as such, reinvented education, is at least a sign of that they are trying to do something, and they are building their law faculties also on the factual background of a strong business faculty. So I would assume that they are working via financial people who are normally more leaders in organizations than lawyers are. So I think that Charlotte, are you able to convert these engineers who quite often end up in leading positions?
Yeah, they do. What we teach is industrial engineering, which is normally that's the way you go to the management side of the companies. So if that's what your question, I had a bit of a rough line to you as well. Yeah.
So I can go, Pierre. I don't know who is having a little bit of a connection problem here. All right, that's better now. I would like to just add something to the conversation, because I haven't mentioned, but I'm also teaching in the University of Sherbrooke in Canada. And I'm actually teaching a course that was created further to my research at the intersection of creativity, design, dispute resolution, and prevention. And the course title is actually Creativity for Dispute Prevention and Dispute Resolution. So I'm sharing this story because, I mean, we have a researcher in the room, Charlotta, and she's even more advanced. She's doing PhD. I was just doing a master research. But I'm just sharing this story to show you that it's possible to also take part in the changing of the curriculum in the universities. Because those courses that were created, most of them hundreds of years ago, I mean, contract law, administrative law, they were created hundreds of years ago by people, right? It's not just coming, falling down from the sky or the clouds, And so I'm sharing this story to encourage our listeners to also be, actively involved in the change, and not to wait for the change to happen and then to have to live with it, but to be active creator and active learner and active teacher, because we need to learn from each other also beyond borders. So this is my story in Canada, and I'm very thankful to my professor as well, who encouraged me and supported me and allowed me to do this very unusual research. So if you do find professors like this, and there are a few here in our webinar room, and we're very grateful to have you here, because they are professors that are going to support you in creating the future instead of resisting it. So I think there was a question that was there were many comments in the chat, and we're very happy to see that you are engaging with us live into this webinar. Sarah Fox, which I know very well, from a lawyer from the UK, has been talking about contracts, that contracts should be built to build stronger relationships. And we totally agree on that. She's been talking about AI for reviewing contracts as well. So how can we move towards a more revolutionary approach? I would love to hear a little bit our guest speakers on this specific comment. I think this is very interesting. And also, just so you know, we're going to take this conversation to the next level in the Future of Contracting live streaming event that is scheduled for May 27 and 28. So if you would like more insights, we strongly encourage you to join. Carol, I will be answering this question after we hear our guest on AI, and is the law ready for evolution or revolution? What do our speakers have to say about this?
Please, Jose, please.
Okay, that's a hard ball. Okay, but let me, if I may, let me just start by stressing something that Pierre said, which I think it is super interesting and important about the connections between. He talked about engineers and lawyers, right? But what is interesting is that, as I see what's happening at my university and the colleagues I have at other universities, is that technology is also breaking down barriers between traditional fields of public law and private law. There was a big divide between lawyers who work with business, and they were usually the bad guys, and lawyers who work with the politics and human rights whatsoever, and they were usually the dreamers or something like that. I think Duncan Kennedy speaks a bit about that. I think that technology is changing this. It's changing this because the kind of action we have to take to make for better society, moving already towards what I think Professor Fox has mentioned, cannot afford this sharp, narrow, neat distinctions between private and public law, between business and non-business. And I think that's a major contribution that the new technology is bringing, not only to the way we do things, but the way we think things, our mindsets. Traditional fields of organizing law are being demolished, and this is necessary because, as I said, medieval university reflected the ideological forms of the medieval world. Modern universities reflect those ideological forms, and we are past modernity. So we have to reshaping our concepts. So it's not only, as Pierre Charlotte have been stressing so correctly, it's not that we are only doing things differently, we are reshaping our way of conceptualizing, not only concepts themselves. And that's why I think that Professor Fox's question is crucial. Technological transformations and technological revolution, as we're seeing now, they do not have a predated outcome or a necessary outcome. They be more inclusive or less inclusive. They can narrow or widen social gaps and justice. And I think that's why it is important that we think this through. And again, I think that this is exactly the kind of debate that we need to make sure that the revolution in technology means evolution in law. And I think we urgently needed that. I'm talking from Brazil, so you guys know what I'm talking, right?
Charlotta, please.
Yes, I agree totally with that. We see so many changes, and we need to evolve the law to go in line with that. And I would like to add also to that this Corona times that we are in, that are actually speeding up this process and are creating this little kind of, first everyone is now going virtual and everyone's turning to digital tools. So we will have a little Corona bump, but we will never go back to the past normal, but there will be a new normal. And so we're going somewhere, we don't know where, but we know we will increase in speed, and who knows where we will end up. But of course the law needs to kind of adapt, and we need to adapt as lawyers to this kind of new normal going forward. So I think that's crucial. So very well said. I agree.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Magnus Lindberg, who's here with us. Magnus deals a lot with change management at Sky Contracts. He's been in several interesting projects dealing with situations that are very uncomfortable for lawyers. So I'd like to ask a question to Magnus, as well as Professor José and Professor Charlotta, a bit about change and law. So basically, what do you think are the skills that are less developed in the current curriculum, and let's say that you see a scarcity all around when you deal with lawyers? And what do you believe is the major frustration with engineers or within business when dealing with lawyers? So I'll just tackle a bit about complexity. For example, we recently had a meeting, Ted and I, with a major partner in a venture capital firm. And he was like, well, I was dealing with this huge law firm with this very senior lawyer. And he was just like, oh, it depends. And well, you are the one who has to choose. And he was like, I couldn't bear it any longer because I'm paying him to make a decision for me. I know the risk I want to take, but I need him to acknowledge a bit what's the decision and what's the road. So basically, I would like to hear Magnus, and thank you, Magnus, for being on board and telling a bit about your experience. José and Charlotta, please.
Thanks, Carol. Yeah, it's what I've seen in both working with very small legal teams and very large legal teams is that, and not just the legal bit, but also the business side. That we're all about the education. We think about the theories, and that's all very good. But that day-to-day and step-by-step utilization of tech is not really included in the education. So just using the regular tools we have at hand is not really taught. And I think that could be a good focus for the future to get this sort of cognitive advantage, or what we can call it, to actually use the tech. There are a lot of good tech out there, but how do you use it, and how do you use the basic ones? So I wanted to bring that in as well. Utilization of the actual tools at hand. So please, passing on.
Thanks. José, Charlotta, Pierre, can we go on
I
that?
think, if my microphone is not totally collapsing right now, I think Magnus' background, I think, is just another proof of the reason why we're here. You used to work as a financial controller, and as such, we know Swedish companies don't hire too many lawyers. They are not acknowledged as very important. So the financial guys or other people end up, in case of emergency, dealing with contracts. And that's really the basics of why Magnus developed into this. And as a matter of fact, we are making great use of Magnus' non-legal skills for legal purposes, which facilitates a lot of things and really generates speed, flow, and simplicity all at once. And if I need to complicate things, or if I need to detail some stuff, we could always add that on top. But I think that is the fusion thing of this whole subject is of uttermost importance. And I think what Charlotta, what you're doing at Chalmers, the technical high-profile school in Sweden, is tremendous. Those are the initiatives that I will think will bite much faster. But I think that all what we're talking here is there is a problem, absolutely. There are definitely solutions just around the corner. Solutions has been available throughout 20 years in terms of technology. We're not waiting for a single thing. And now, eventually, everybody can see that there is a market. And all those three components are critical in order to bring change. It's not enough with the problems we can create as we sleep. And all of that. So right now, and those are the things that I'm looking forward to go into more detail when we end up this month with the real future of contracting.
Also, I just wanted to reply to the comment that was given in the chat by Carol. What was the first step, she says, to hacking the law school curriculum? I did not intentionally hack the law school curriculum, but I kind of like the word. The first step was for me to really follow my intuition, sort of say. I have a legal training and background. And when I moved from France to Canada 10 years ago, I discovered that creativity was not just something for artists, that creativity has a whole set of, kind of background. There's a lot of research that has been done around creativity in psychology, but also in other fields. And I decided to dive deeper into the topic of creativity and to learn what it truly is. And then I said, why don't I bring it back into the legal field and merge the two? So I really followed my own, interest. And this is, I think, very important. So whatever interest you have, whether it's creativity, whether it's psychology, whether it's communication, whether it's technology, it could be AI, it could be blockchain, it could be management. We need more people, professionals, professors that are actually going to invest time into researching how this is relevant for the legal profession and what are the steps to take to bring those new disciplines into the curriculum at the university, but also into the legal practice. So this is why, again, at the Future of Contracting events that is happening on May 27 and 28, the intention and the proposal we make is not just for you to be a passive listener of the keynotes we're going to be having, but also for you to be an active participant. This is why I'm going to be facilitating a workshop session in the Future of Contracting, so you can get to practice. You can get to see how you can become an active contributor to the discussion. And of course, the talks are going to be a great way for us all to have more insights, more inspiration, to have more knowledge as to what needs our attention now. And today, personally, I've been learning so much from hearing Jose and Charlotta. And I want to say to you too, thank you so much for, making time today to share, because it's been really valuable for me. So I have no doubt it was very valuable for the audience members as well.
I'd like to ask if Jose and Charlotta, you have final remarks. So we start closing a bit our webinar, and I would really like to grant the microphone and hear your last words, and invite not only you, but also any person globally that's hearing us to eventually share your research in the Future of Contracting LinkedIn page, if you would like, so that we can think about creating a small break in the event where we can have, a round table of researchers that are interested in getting to know each other and exchange ideas. So I'd like to formalize this invitation, and we'll actually post in the LinkedIn page more about that. I think this is very valid and well received globally at this moment. So please, Jose and Charlotta, your final words. Thank you.
Okay, so I will start by thanking. It's an amazing opportunity. I've been learning so much, and there's so much going through our minds, right, when you hear people talking about. And just to add in this final remark, something that you and Pierre mentioned, right? So what needs to be developed? And I think Magnus talked a little bit about this. Maybe fundamentally, it's a mindset of what it means to be a lawyer. That is the key thing, because as Pierre pointed out, there are solutions, but they have to be seen as solutions. They cannot be seen as problems. And a good part of the ethos linked to lawyers, that is, you have to be invisible, you have to confine yourself to your legal expertise, you discuss means, you do not discuss ends with your client, and you're very jealous of your legal expertise. Other people cannot talk about law. That's your job to do it. So this mindset is exactly the mindset that will resist recognizing that there are solutions. So I think that maybe the skills, it's a set of skills, but maybe one of the most important things that we have to tackle in the new legal education is the new mindset, is a new conception of what it means to be a lawyer. What makes you a lawyer? What is the job description? What is the expectation? And again, I think that this goes hand in hand with technological transformation and the social transformation that goes with that. But having said that, it's one thing nothing can replace, and that's people talking to people. And we are doing this here, and this is so absolutely fantastic. And one last thing, I love to have these virtual meetings because we often do not look at each other's face in presential meetings, right? We are shy of that, and it's so fantastic to see people's faces, and there's such a beauty to that. Thank you very, very much for the invitation. It was an honor, and I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. We also learned a lot.
Yeah, I also learned quite a lot. I think this is a fantastic communication opportunity, and really, I so agree that this new times demands for new solutions and kind of new ways to practice law and new identities. What is a lawyer? We need to also to talk about that, because if that changes, we can't have lawyers coming into it and expecting to come out on the other side with a suit on and become the lawyer of the past. But we need to prepare our students for the lawyer of the future, so that they go into the situation knowing that that's what we need, these kind of new identities, new roles, and etc. Creativity, innovation. We need lawyers that want to do that, and the new mindset is a good way of thinking about that. And my kind of summary for all this is actually to touch up upon what Pierre was saying. We need speed, we need flow, we need simplicity, and these kind of new times demands for more collaboration. So I really look forward to that as well. More collaboration.
Thank you. Thank you. Magnus, you want to say some words, final words, please?
Yes. So thank you, everyone. And this was a warm-up for the future contract. So please join us on 27th, 28th of May. We do 3 hours per day. So it's easy to join wherever you are. Very early on the west coast of the US and Hawaii, but a bit late in Eastern Asia, but everyone can make it. So go into join us at futureofcontracting.com. Here we see some speakers that are, it's a fantastic lineup, as you see. And we're going to learn a lot. As Tessa mentioned, she's going to have a workshop where we can actually be very active. The speakers are interactive as well. And of course, we can utilize the tech, so we can talk to the speakers while they're talking. So perfect, and ask questions. So join us at futureofcontracting.com, and thank you very much. See you later.
Pierre, Tessa, anything else before we wrap up?
Thank you so much for our guest. Thank you to, of course, you being on the MC, and Carol, and to all of the live viewers, please don't hesitate to share about your webinar experience with your colleagues, because there are good chances that they're also going to get a lot of insights as much as you have had some insights today. So don't hesitate to share about this webinar so we can have a community around the topic of the future of contracting. And I can't wait to see you in the workshop experience with me, but also to see you tuning in for this live streaming experience at the end of the month. So thank you.
I'd like to leave everyone with a song and an image as well, which was given in the lesson of Professor Garcés, which I attended. Another brick in the wall. Unfortunately, IP doesn't allow us at this moment to play it. But please do take a look at the video and the song. He does lecture with this, talking about the future of education. It's an amazing way of ending up this very, very special moment. Thank you, Professor Garcés. Thank you, Professor Charlotta. Thank you a lot, Magnus, Tessa, and Pierre, for being such amazing people to walk by. And we'll soon post more in the page about this collaboration amongst researchers and innovators. We really think this is needed. So this is just an initiation of the debate and the dialogue. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.